Welcome to a new format for us at Boxmining. I've always wanted to do some casual discussions and provide you guys with a little more detail and insights about kind of what's really happening behind the scenes. And I feel like there's a lot of interest in Solana, obviously. And today we have Bartosz from Cube Exchange. Hi, Bartosz.
Hey Michael, thanks for having me.
There's lots happening with Bartosz. Bartosz is currently the CEO of Cube Exchange, and they're doing a lot with digital asset treasuries. But first, Bartosz, I kind of want to just kind of introduce you to this channel and ask you a little bit about, how you got involved in this place in the first place.
Yeah, sure. And the involvement was kind of random. Um, so when the COVID started, I was on my non-compete when I left Citadel, and I was about to go to jump trading, and I started baking bread and like a bunch of other things that people did during COVID. But that ended up pretty quickly, like roughly like 3 weeks for me. Um, and after that, I started like researching which blockchain around the time, and it was like 2020, mimicked similar principles that you use to build trading systems at this high frequency trading companies. And I really like how Anatoly approached building Solana in this like monolithical way, but also with like language that actually is used for the operating systems and Rust. So there's like two things that really attracted me to how he approached building blockchain. So
Right,
I
right.
the team and said, hey, I have a non-compete, but like I would start like to start exploring like could we work together?
Got it. And I mean, that's an interesting history, right? Because I mean, you worked at Citadel. I think at that time it was probably for 6 years almost.
Yeah.
What made you inspire you? Because I mean, that was a very clear path. What inspired you to actually leave something like that?
So I actually, let's call it, flirted with the crypto space for a while before.
Hmm.
I first started like casually mining Bitcoin like way back in like 2010 during like my cryptography classes during my masters.
Hmm.
And at the time, I didn't necessarily like believe that it can replace the financial system, so I went and worked actually in traditional finance. And I think it took me a decent amount of time to kind of get back to the space in a full professional way. But I was from the sideline mostly.
So was it COVID that kind of like sparked it, or was it like disappointment with currently what's happening in the financial system?
No, I think it was a combination of like what happened with GameStop, like how the technology matured, and then COVID. So I think there's like three things were kind of a confluence to why I got like full time in a professional way into the space.
Right, 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 right. And um, kind of did people think you're crazy when that happened? Like, leaving something certain for something that was very new at that time. Especially, I mean, Solana at that time wasn't very even famous.
Yeah, I think most people didn't know about Solana. I think it was like way outside of like, top 200.
Mhm.
But for me, I think it was all about the technology. So the way I framed it to friends and I guess my family, it was like I'm a technologist at heart, and I'm just excited about this like technology company. So it didn't really matter that it was crypto, and I think that's like my fundamental view that's kind of happening this year. That crypto is like going to be like fully adopted when people stop talking about it like as crypto and it's just technology and finance.
Oh, interesting. So you actually view this not as just crypto, but you view it as so fundamental that this will be just technology in the future.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So okay, so you actually kind of then is that preluding to the way that you're thinking that it's going to replace traditional finance because you have the experience in traditional finance. But can you give us maybe some insights into how that's going to take place, or how that's going to work in the future?
Yeah, I think you have been seeing that happening this year with digital asset treasuries. I think the companies on Nasdaq are blending into crypto fairly seamlessly. And at that point, like nobody's calling it crypto anymore. It's like, hey, we just have this treasury of this digital asset that's related to some technology. Um,
Mm,
and I think like and then it goes the other way around where you have like tokenized stock like blending into crypto as well, which I think has been
right.
happening on Solana this year quite a bit. So these two worlds like are colliding in like very fast way. That at some point you will just say, hey, like if I trade Tesla, if I trade it here, like it doesn't really matter that it's called Solana or it's called crypto.
Got it. Got it. I think that's a cool way to look at it because I think people get very tribal and very emotional when it comes to like which tech, which ecosystem, but it's just technology, right?
Yep.
Okay, so going on that, so you mentioned digital asset treasuries. We made big news recently, being acquiring $500 million of Solana treasury. You know, um, can we roll this here and just explain to me how you view digital asset treasuries? How that ecosystem works.
Yeah, sure. So I have been involved in digital asset treasuries, I think, for quite some time, mostly investing. I think since like late March this year, and it fascinated me in a decent way that like most people in crypto actually didn't understand how the digital asset treasuries work, and then
Mm,
most people in like traditional finance actually don't know anything about those assets and approach it, especially investment bankers, from like, I will just raise the money, collect the fees, and it doesn't really matter that much which asset it is. And I think it created a decent gap that actually allows people that potentially understand both worlds like come much closer and build something more special. But like fundamentally, the trade is like pretty simple, and I compared that trade to just going to a casino and betting bigger. So these
right.
companies are trying to create a momentum on a specific asset. So if you take like Michael Saylor and Bitcoin, he's trying to acquire as much Bitcoin like as fast as possible to create like higher momentum in the price that will then create a flywheel effect with his like company stock prices, so he can issue more shares using like in ATM, convertible notes, or any of the instruments that he's using to acquire more Bitcoin and increase that momentum. So in a sense, it's like a both short-term and long-term momentum play on the underlying asset that's then embedded in that company.
Right. And it actually makes a lot of sense, to be fair. It's just like increasing your momentum. I mean, if described like that. But um I think a lot of Bitcoin maxis would, or not even just Bitcoin maxis, even crypto maxis, they'll say, why don't people just own the asset? It's like, why do you need someone like Michael Saylor to go and buy some Bitcoin when you can just buy it yourself? Not your keys, not your crypto. So
Yeah. And it's exactly what I described. It's like most individual holders have no
mhm.
ability to actually create that momentum in the underlying asset. So you would need either a lot of people coordinating their buys to create that momentum. But even if they do and they just hold it, they usually don't use that asset in a productive way to generate returns and to acquire then more of that asset. And that's the
Mm,
this wheel. Like if you and me will just buy one Bitcoin and hold it, that reduces the supply. Maybe it creates demand. If you go and talk on podcast, hey, I hold X amount of Bitcoin, I think people should be buying it. But fundamentally, you are not using it to effectively buy more of that asset. So
right,
that
right,
curve
right,
is very
right.
different.
Right. I see. I see. So it's all about like combining forces, and it's kind of like triggering the network effect by combining forces, right? So now you have all the media involved, you have people that can generate more capital, and then that's a very interesting way to look at it, right? Because yeah, coming from a pure Maxis perspective, you're like, oh, just hold it. But the teamwork makes the dream work, I guess.
Yep. And like I think people should hold it regardless, right? Because then they are
Hmm.
playing along the like. So I, for example, Solana, I hold Solana itself, like in a
Hmm.
non-custodial way. I put some Solana on the exchanges, and then I also hold the shares in the digital asset treasuries. And the way I think of them is like they actually all work together.
Got it. Got it. And what do you think are the challenges for these digital asset treasuries, right? Like there are so many that's being created at this current time. Do you think having being Solana based separates you, makes a distinction, or how does?
Yeah, so the biggest challenge I think for a lot of them is potentially not understanding the trade. itself.
Mm.
I think depending on the token, um, some of the digital asset treasuries contributed a lot of like in-kind tokens
Mm.
into the vehicle, and when you do that, you're fundamentally showing that you are not understanding the trade, because if you view it as I need to trigger momentum on the underlying asset, I need to buy it. So if I take a glass of water and just move it from my right hand to the left hand, that didn't necessarily increase the amount of like pressure that that water has. And this is what these people sometimes are doing with like contributing in kind. You need that buying pressure to create the momentum. But even that, sometimes it doesn't happen. And the perfect example is like Solana. I think everyone with all the digital asset treasuries that have been going out there, like Ford, uh, Helios, and Soulmate, and others, like Upexi, everyone was expecting that like roughly 3 billion worth of buying pressure on Solana should move the price, but it didn't necessarily move the price, I think, how everyone expected, either due to market conditions with like tariffs and whatever has been happening in crypto. But that because of that price didn't move, now a lot of this like digital asset treasuries are just trading at like a single 1x MNAV because the underlying asset didn't move. And that's kind of a risk, because if the asset is not moving and you didn't create this flywheel, how are you going to raise more money
Right, right.
on the stock price, right? If like Bitcoin was still at like 74,000, which is I think average buy price for market seller, he would have like much harder time raising capital on MicroStrategy shares than he has right now.
Okay. So if that's the challenge, and how are you creating that pressure then? How are you being different?
Yeah, so that goes back to the I think original comment with like all of them. You just need to bet bigger. So this is like classic casino play, in the sense of you need to keep raising money. And I think with Solana is actually a good example. Like some people will claim, hey, maybe there's too many. There's like I think 6 different digital asset treasuries on Solana. But in my opinion, it doesn't matter as long all of them are betting bigger uh, on Solana itself to trigger that momentum. And then you are
Right.
just in that momentum trade.
So what you're saying is 3 billion is not big enough. You gotta you gotta double down.
Yeah, pretty much. Just pure casino.
Right, right. If you shot it once, it didn't work, just bring a bigger gun and you're good there. So I see you're in Dubai. Are you trying to raise more money right now? Is that what's happening? Why are you in Dubai?
I think there's a lot of Solana people here, so I met with a couple of Solana people. Um, yeah, and generally, I think it's like good time to visit Dubai before the conference. So there's obviously a Solana conference in December, so hopefully we'll see each other in Abu Dhabi. But just wanted to make sure that I kind of like come before the conference, meet the people that are local. Um,
Cool. How about capital raising right now? So if you're saying the key is to bring bigger guns, are you going to raise even more capital? What's kind of your next steps to make this make things work?
I mean, like the next step is like pretty straightforward. Let's just make sure that we complete the transaction.
Right.
So yes, like there will be some need to raise more capital, and I think like but ultimately, I think like what I want to make sure I think like all the listeners understand is like the what makes this Cube transaction interesting is it's not a pure digital asset treasury play. Like the
Mm.
exchange is being operated as it was operated before, and we are combining it with digital asset treasury to improve efficiency of the operations of the exchange.
Right, right, right. And we haven't even touched Cube Exchange, but let's touch upon that now. Like, for viewers who haven't, looked at Cube Exchange, can you give us a quick idea of what it is?
Yeah, sure. So it started 2 years ago with me and Larry Wool. And the idea started as something very simple. We want to build exchange from the ground up with the custody layer that's decentralized to prevent uh, the hacks and like stolen crypto that people have without the need to going like full non-custodial. I think in both just custodial and non like self-custody way, you have some compromises, and we wanted to build an exchange that kind of tries to combine both of the worlds.
Right, right, right. And um, that's up. So that's that. I think we talked about this in a little bit of detail previously, and I think this is where it's hard to do interviews because like we talked off camera about how it works and how it functions, and we got into a lot of the nerdy details about how things are kept. I think we won't talk about that here. I think that's they can probably look it up, but I think the key here is to understand how do you feel like this whole ecosystem fitting in? I mean, obviously this is all building towards a future where finance is synonymous with crypto. Crypto is finance, right? Um, how is it working right now? Like you know, is that gaining momentum? Do you feel like the infrastructure is there? Like where do you place things right now in the grand
Yeah, I
scheme of
think
things?
from finance perspective and like combining all of that, I think you see that with just the amount of money that's being raised in like from traditional finance, both in this digital asset treasuries and ETFs. And yes, there's some impact after like liquidation event last week in terms of like
Hmm.
outflows. But fundamentally, if you look at like the amount of money coming from institutions, I think it outpaces like retail quite heavily.
Right.
And I think like that's the sign that the space is like maturing.
Hmm.
Hopefully it will be good still in terms of like we'll still see volatility. So like I actually like that like we had like large volatility event with these liquidations because like this is what fundamentally makes crypto different.
Hmm.
Uh, like, yes, a lot of people lost money, and that's obviously like very bad. But how do you keep this asset very differentiated? And I think it's that volatility that comes from the like perpetuals trading.
And from this side, right? So, I mean, you probably saw some data as well, and you probably see you might even have a different look. Like, I mean, I'm actually quite curious because I mean, if you look at a lot of people are losing money, complaining. I can smell the loss. So some people have, but like, there's winner and losers, right? I mean, from exchange perspective, did it really matter, or like, do you see the winners? Are they, what's happening there?
Um, like obviously, like plenty of exchanges, I think, are winners in terms of just like higher volume, higher volatility.
Yeah,
You,
right.
you will just make money. Like the business makes money when there's volatility and trading. Like that's
Hmm.
just pretty straightforward. Um, I think what made this like event very unique in terms of like having more winners is portions of the like infrastructure just didn't work. So even if you wanted to execute the trades at like very low prices because you were bullish, like maybe you had money on the side, like you couldn't actually. And I think this is where there was I think more losers during that whole event than balanced what you would see like in the past with like perpetual liquidations because yes you are correct there's always like winner and loser on the side of a perpetual but I think like in this case like the market mechanics broke quite a bit.
Mm, 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 mm. And that makes sense, right? There's no call. There's no margin call. No one calls you, right? It's like it's automated. It's gone. And I guess it makes sense in that respect, right? Uh, Speaking of kind of volatility, um, do you see more volatility with institutional investors coming in or less volatility? Like,
I think the, let's call it common knowledge was that we would see less volatility, but I think that kind of like the current macro environment just encourages more volatility. I think the tariffs, the general like jitters in the market, let's call it like that, both in the like traditional stock market, reflect that quite heavily in crypto. So I
yeah,
think
and
that
I mean, I've been spending time on CT, and it just feels like everyone's taking crazy pills. Like,
yeah.
I mean, we're at all time. This year has been constantly breaking all time highs for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and I feel like people should be a little bit more excited, but we're not, and like we're focusing on the negatives. Like, I don't know, I'm a little bit baffled. Like I don't understand people.
Yeah, so I think that's so what I've seen myself, I think this year and maybe last year is like the Twitter or like crypto Twitter is just very different. I think large population of people kind of like splintered away from that medium. And I think that's what makes it like very different. So a lot of like institutions or institutional players are just not there, so they are not commenting on their wins. Um,
Mhm.
a lot of like I think people that trade memes are just not there as well. Like the whole like pump.fun crowd, I think like almost like doesn't exist on crypto Twitter. I think it happens either
Mm,
in
mm, 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 mm.
telegrams, like Instagrams, TikToks, or whatnot. And I think from that perspective, this year the crypto community has been like much less homogeneous, and
Yeah.
we don't see that diverse views. And what you have on crypto Twitter is just like this like old school people from previous cycles, and I think that negative sentiment is just kind of like self-inflicting, and that's why I think like price also hasn't been moving because like at this like just above like 100,000 level, I think for people that have been in Bitcoin for a long time, they just keep selling, and I think for Solana people that's probably around like 200, above 200.
Mm, mm.
So this
So it's
like
just a
until we exhaust this like old holders and replace them with like either institutional money or new holders, I think we'll not see like this rapid move that we've seen in the previous bull cycles.
yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And I feel like I almost feel like sometimes on Twitter, like there's just people intentionally causing FUD. Like
Yeah,
even maybe hired groups. I mean, it makes sense, right? Like if you, because you just see the same kind of arguments pop up. Like today, like this Bitcoin was created by the CIA is trending again. I'm like, I thought we
yeah,
dealt with that in 2016. You know, like
yeah. I mean, like this accusations I have been popping up since like 2014, right? Like
yeah, it's
on
nonstop, right? It's
but it generates engagement. So I kind of like view it as like that's just part of the social media. If you like, it's much easier to generate engagement by being negative against something.
I think so too, but I mean, I feel bad for the traders who are here. You know, like if you're not experienced dealing with noise, it's like how do you even get your signal from this? You know, like you're confused noise with signal, and you're not gonna trade well. I'm just like,
Yeah,
you know, I want to help people, but at this point, I'm like, you know what? Why don't I just contribute to the noise? You know, just like
yeah. Like I would say, like reporting on the news is probably different from like trading crypto. I think like for most people, trading crypto shouldn't be a day job. The same way like trading stocks shouldn't be a day job. So if you're excited about Bitcoin or Solana in terms of like technology, just keep buying regardless of the price. So in the sense, just be your personal Michael seller. Like he's not looking at the Bitcoin price and he's like, that seems too high. I'm not buying.
yeah. Continuously buying. I mean, it's kind of funny. I mean, his strategy has been very solid and it works, right? And it's surprising that not many people are like following that. People just think they can, you know, buy low, sell high, and like, I don't know.
Yeah, and usually it ends up in reverse.
I mean, in theory, if we hit an all-time high, that means if you bought Bitcoin at any point in time it hit in the past, you're winning, right?
Yeah,
But people are like, crypto's a scam, bro. I'm like, I'm like baffled. I'm
yeah. I
confused, but.
mean, for a lot of those people, and you've seen this like probably way more than I did. It's like they buy it on the news when it hits all time high and sell it a week later when they lose 10%.
Mhm. Yeah, and you gotta rough it through. So I mean, you gotta rough it through and gotta believe, right? To a certain extent. Um, yeah, and talking about that, I mean, you've been in the Solana ecosystem for a long time. I mean, um, I didn't really ask you a lot about this at the start, but like, what? I mean, you said I mean, you touched upon this and said, hey, like the tech or the way the thinking was what attracted you to it. But like, what specifically was about Solana? Like, what part of that really pulled you in because you're so committed to this ecosystem?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so first, like simple things from the technical perspective. I think building, like, so Ethereum, for example, built its own language, Solidity for smart contracts. Um, and like fundamentally, as much as I like building like different like languages, and I did decent amount of that at school, I think if you're trying to build something that's for mass market adoption, you need to use one of the languages that people know, and it's already there because that reduces the entry for developers.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, then the approach of like we will be a single monolithic like L1 without this like extensions of L2 and just focus on optimizing uh, software so it runs better on newer hardware is something that like have been proven true in like software for years and years. So going against that, hey, hardware will get better. Let's focus on building software and make it as monolithic as possible so it's optimized for that hardware that's going to come in the future. It's something that almost like every technologist like understands. Um, and it keeps the platform like relatively simpler so you can keep innovating. That's why you will see like fire dancer coming and like all those things because the they decided the hardware is what will keep improving. We don't want to architect the software to be make it like super complex. Um,
Hmm.
just focus on that like single part, and then once you combine those two things, that from my view, that was fundamentally speaking to engineers, and they were like, if you're an engineer and you want to start building, this is the place where you should be building.
It
Um,
almost feels like a realist approach, right? You're looking at trends in hardware, you're looking at what fundamentally worked, and just take the safest or the proven route. It almost sounds
yeah,
like.
I mean, like route that has been working for dozens of years now,
Mhm.
just in computers, rather than build solidity, then go with like okay, we'll have this L1s, L2s, L3s, maybe like L10s that will help scale, and like this like fragmented the ecosystem so much that if you ask someone, okay, where should I start building, like which L2 and why, nobody can tell you. Like,
It's me. Go. Yeah, here's a bunch of contact lists. Just go contact those people, right, and go figure it yourself. Right. How do you find a Solana community? Because I mean, I've been reading that it's actually a very different vibe from the Ethereum community. I'm not, um, have you
yeah,
explored both, or how's it going?
yeah, no, I did. Like, I tried to build things before in Ethereum. Um, and I think what fundamentally makes it different is this approach to simplicity, which is like, I will assume the blockchain will keep getting better. Like that team knows what they are doing, and rather than trying to like innovate on the research side of things, and like I just want to focus on building a business, and I think that has been the primary principle that has been driving a lot of Solana teams, and I think you can see that in just like, well, bring more users, generate more fees, and build a sustainable business. And it's not about like being fancy with like research or like how the protocols are designed. Like when you look at like pump.fun, like relatively the code is very simple.
Mm.
And but like they're like, okay, we'll like write the simple code and focus on the idea. And with that idea, we'll just scale the business. Like the blockchain doesn't matter, like in some sense to like like how they build it, right? They are like,
Yeah,
we'll
it's a simple. It
custom
was a
to
very good concept. I mean, the concept was just amazing, and it took off. It worked. I mean,
yeah,
the
but
interface was ugly AF, but it worked.
yeah, but then like like start thinking, okay, how would that happen if it was built by someone maybe with Ethereum mindset?
Right.
And they would try to do research on like, okay, how do we do like better bonding curves and like publish that and advocate the bonding curve. And like the Pumped Fun people were none of this matters, nobody cares.
Right. That's a great way to think about it. I haven't heard of this. Well, not haven't heard of this, but it's a great way of looking at it, right? Like, instead of looking at what's the best, just look at what works and just have the idea and just go with it. And surprisingly, even the live thing works well. I feel like they made a few right moves there. And um, and I find it kind of interesting how I don't know, like I'm very broken on memes. Okay, because we were touching on Pump.Fun. I'm very broken on memes because like
What happened?
I don't know. I still love value, but can you convince me like how these memes generate value long term? Like, you know,
Sure. I mean, like, but you can argue the same thing about, Bitcoin. How does it generate value long term, right? Like it
But it
doesn't
was the
matter.
first one, right? It didn't just put a picture. I mean, the pump down mentality was like, let's put a picture, and that generates value, huh? Like, at least Bitcoin, like Satoshi wrote like this concept of combining these cryptographic ideas together. He pieced it together. It wasn't anything super novel, but it pieced together existing things and it worked, right? He did something. He changed the world. I mean,
Like, look, I think it's just giving opportunity for people to like have fun and potentially hope that you can make money regardless of where you are in the cycle. And like ultimately, I think that what makes it work.
well, yeah. I mean, well, I do have to say, like, I do see why it works, right? Because I go to conferences and you see like all the new influencers, like they don't know what the fuck is a layer one, layer two, layer three. They don't fucking care. I mean, like they got dyed hair, they got chains. All they gotta care about is like what fashion to wear, what new shoes to wear tomorrow. That's what they care about. So I can see that. I can see that going forward. I see that's the general trend of things. So, we back, when I created Boxmining, we we're like caring what a UTXO transaction is, and I think nowadays no one gives a shit. UTX what?
Though it's still like I do still think it's a beautiful design. I think Solana improved on a couple of things that Ethereum has been doing in terms of like how the transactions work and everything. But I think the UTXO are like very powerful, and it's definitely a very clean design. So
Yeah,
for
I think so. I think so. So okay, I think let's just going back on the future. So where do you think we're going in like let's say the short horizon. There's a lot of volatility, but where do you think things are going to go in 5 years?
5 years is like pretty long time.
Yeah.
Man, like I don't know. Like if you ask me like 5 years ago, when I was like starting at Solana, uh, like would we see Nasdaq companies just buying crypto, like what they are doing right now, and like just like having a very friendly SEC president, like what no, like I don't know, like anything can change. But I think like what everyone in crypto can just keep doing is just working. I think like the biggest problem is uh, just people potentially like quitting the space because either like they think it's toxic or they made money already, um, or they don't like the current trend of like either memes or this or that. I think like this is
Mm-hmm.
like what the space I think taught me is like the trends show up and go away and then there's like a new trend like NFTs, for example, like they're almost like long gone and nobody cares. And like I don't think anyone in 2001, 2021 would say that they will be gone almost like instantaneously and nobody will care about your picture.
Right, right. So it's not really about. So I think so you think it's more about important to hold on. Then it's just more important to just look at the trend and embrace trends, right, rather than to.
Yeah,
Or,
I think those trends are there to just have fun, right? Like don't
mm,
lose your money, don't bet the house on the trend. Have fun and like believe in a specific technology. If you believe in Bitcoin, just keep buying Bitcoin, but enjoy the space. I think the space is so diverse and like changes so drastically every year that you can have a lot of fun with it. Or if you enjoy
mm.
Solana technology, go keep buying Solana, but don't bet most of your assets on a random like meme coin because like it will be gone tomorrow.
Yeah, right, right.
Uh,
That's really, and that's a great way to look at it. So, I think it's part of the space where it's so tempting to get super involved and super emotionally attached to something, but at the same time, it's like having that detachment is important. But it's like I'm always conflicted because like as a as a content creator, you want to be as emotional as possible because it's like it's kind of what generates the hype, the momentum, the excitement. But at the same time, like we want to be a trader, you want to be dead inside. Whether you
Yeah.
win or lose, it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, it can be draining. Like I think like following the trends can be draining. Definitely.
Yeah, exactly. All right, guys. So I think that covers up what we want to talk about, and I think it kind of leads us to a good point where we kind of told our audience what our thoughts are and what they're going. Are there any last words? Like, what should our audience look out for? Maybe any last things that's coming up in your side.
Yeah, I would say like for all the crypto people, I would like look deeper into digital asset treasuries because I
Mm,
think fundamentally the trade is different than just someone else is buying a token and holding it. It goes much deeper, and there's like a lot of smart people out there making it work. And you can have both hold the asset and have someone else keep buying the asset for you and make it work.
got it. And I think that's an important thing to say because I mean I have a lot of maxis back from 2016 which won't understand at all. It's like not your keys, not your crypto. Why would I want anyone else have that? And I think it's that open mindedness, and it's also about talking to the smart people, the real smart people, not the fake smart people out there about this. So Bartosz, thank you so much for this interview. If you guys want to follow Bartosz, I'll link all the social medias below, links below, Cube Exchange, everything that he's doing. I'll put them in the comment section down below. And with that, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. See you next time.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.